Hello ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. Today is Monday the 9th of March 2020 and today we've got quite a bit to get through. Starting with PC Tajindapal Dhaliwal from the Metropolitan Police, whose allegation of discreditable conduct was proven against him on the 28th of February. Dhaliwal was found guilty in Barkingside Magistrates Court on the 11th of December after pleading guilty to drink driving. His subsequent special case misconduct hearing found his actions to be gross misconduct, and had he not resigned from the police on the 30th of January this year, then he would have been dismissed without notice. Another one the Police Federation got to before they got sacked. Next we have Cambridgeshire Police Constable PC Julian Crimes. Yes, appropriate and no doubt the subject of many jokes. Julian Crimes will be facing a public misconduct hearing later this month after it was alleged that he gave false evidence at a coroner's court. It is alleged that PC Julian Crimes, based in South Cambridgeshire, breached the standards of professional behaviour in respect of honesty and integrity and duties and responsibilities, in that he gave evidence at a coroner's court knowing it to be untrue, which, if proven, amounts to gross misconduct. He also allegedly failed in his duties and responsibilities when dealing with a missing person. This, if proven, amounts to misconduct. The hearing is set to take place in Biggleswade and starts on March the 16th and is expected to last 5 days. Thank you to Steve for the following, and this is quite an interesting story, especially if you've seen the video from yesterday regarding Tommy Robinson's daughter. A 64-year-old man pleaded guilty to 1 count of sexual assault at Hull Crown Court on Friday after masquerading as a pupil at a school in Bridlington in Hull when he squeezed the bottom of a 14-year-old schoolgirl on January the 8th last year, only to be given a suspended sentence. Michael Wilson later was caught by a member of staff standing in an out-of-bounds area of the school, which he had attended, wearing a wig, blazer and tie. After his arrest, a day later, police searched his home in Bridlington, where they found a secret room which contained a story written by Wilson titled "My Life as a 13-Year-Old Schoolboy." They also found blazers containing the crests of different schools, plus the uniform he had been wearing on the day he sexually assaulted his 14-year-old victim. In court, the prosecution said that Wilson was walking towards the school wearing a wig, a white shirt, a blazer and a tie. He approached and without asking anything, he squeezed one of the girl's bottoms before walking towards the school. Not quite sure what he would have asked. "Can I squeeze your bum?" After he was arrested on January the 9th, officers found a fake school identification card which contained an old picture of him. The court heard how the impact of the incident has caused the 14-year-old victim to overdose on 2 occasions. Addressing Wilson, Judge David Tremberg said, "She has become anxious, introverted, lost confidence, self-conscious. She has self-harmed and become a very unhappy young lady. She should not have to bear that burden, and you are responsible for it," and so decided to give Wilson 12 months in prison, suspended, because there's nothing quite like giving a young girl her confidence back than letting the man who assaulted her walk free. The judge said it was an unusual and sad case. On the one hand, you are clearly an intelligent 64-year-old man with no previous convictions and have a very good work record. On the other hand, the evidence and the content of the pre-sentence report indicates you have, as the years worn on, become a lonely, isolated, socially inadequate member of society, and against that background you developed an unhealthy preoccupation for a life as a schoolboy. You acquired school clothes, kept a story of life as a schoolboy, dressed as a schoolboy, and attended the facility of your old school. As far as the future risk is concerned, the probation service say they can help to address the risk you pose by forms of treatment in the community. Wilson must adhere to a sexual harm prevention order for 7 years, in which he is prohibited from purchasing school clothing. He must also not go within 100 metres of a perimeter boundary of any school and is prohibited from having contact with any child under the age of 16 who is unrelated to him. I'm sure the young girl who is now anxious, introverted, has lost confidence, is self-conscious, has self-harmed and become a very unhappy young lady will soon snap out of it. Thanks to Shooked1LDN for the following. This is a follow-up to a story I originally covered in a video on the 29th of November last year regarding Metropolitan Police Superintendent Robyn Williams, not the Robyn Williams, over claims that a child abuse video was sent to her in a WhatsApp message by her sister, but she failed to report it. This latest report says that Williams was sent an unsolicited video of a child being abused in February 2018 by her sister, who wanted the paedophile behind it hunted down in court. It was sent via WhatsApp to Williams, and she said she never watched it, which the jury seemed to accept after acquitting her of a charge of covering up knowledge about the video to protect her sister. However, the original report said nothing about wanting the paedophile behind it hunted down and caught. In fact, Superintendent Williams' sister's partner, 61-year-old Dido Massivi, was sentenced to 18 months prison, suspended for 2 years after denying 2 counts of distributing indecent photos and 1 count of possessing an extreme pornographic image portraying a person having sex with a horse. Wonder if they wanted to track down the horse as well. Prosecutors at the time said that there was no suggestion the defendants derived any sexual gratification from the images, but all 3 would be placed on the sex offenders register. Superintendent Williams and her sister for 5 years and Massivi for 10. This latest information suggests that Superintendent Williams will be facing a 1-day public hearing to determine whether or not she's guilty of gross misconduct for failing to report the abuse video. And of course, as one of the most senior female African Caribbean officers in Britain and a founder member of the National Black Police Association, the Black Police Association has said her targeting was simply an example of institutional racism. As we would expect, because it couldn't possibly be anything to do with the fact that, as a senior police officer who received the child abuse video and failed to report it, she was in the wrong. Could it? The Met said it is alleged that Superintendent Robyn Williams breached the standards of professional behaviour in respect of discreditable conduct. It said the charge amounted to gross misconduct and is so serious as to justify dismissal. Williams was sentenced to 200 hours of community service, which she has completed. She remains on the sex offenders register following her conviction, despite the prosecution at her trial accepting she had no sexual interest in children and had never watched the video. She is currently on restricted duties. The report said that a jury cleared Williams of corruptly failing to report the video to her superiors, but convicted her of possession of it. Some people saw those 2 verdicts as contradictory and questioned why the Met had pursued her when it had the option not to do so. Which is exactly where the problem lies as far as I'm concerned. Why should they have the option not to pursue anything? If there is evidence of a crime, then that is their job to collect that and present it to the CPS. It's not their job to overlook just because it's one of their own. The date for her hearing has been set for the 13th of March. Thank you to Jay for the following. An Isle of Man police constable has been jailed for 2 years and 8 months, not suspended, for stealing from colleagues and from a search address. 51-year-old Kevin Scott Williams of Port Echi Avenue, Douglas, was Secretary, Treasurer and Chairman of the Isle of Man Police Federation and had sole access to its funds without any oversight. Between 2011 and 2017, he withdrew cash and paid cheques totalling £60,000 from the Federation Fund into his own personal account. He also stole a Rolex watch valued at £6,750 from premises being searched as part of a joint police, HMRC and UK National Crime Agency operation in 2015. As you would expect, defence advocate Peter Taylor said his client had been hospitalised for stress and had been diagnosed with PTSD in 2018. His life had spiralled out of control, he said. Williams was jailed for 24 months for the theft from the Police Federation Fund and a further 8 months for the theft of the watch, making a total of 2 years and 8 months. He has been ordered to pay £60,000 compensation to the Police Federation from funds held by the court that had been subject to a restraining order. Deemster Farrell told him, "It is indeed tragic that you stand here today. Not only will you serve a sentence, but you may well lose your police pension built up over many years." Boo fucking who? Confusion between Greenwich Mean Time and British Summertime apparently resulted in an innocent family having their home raided by police investigating the upload and sharing of indecent images of children over a public Wi-Fi service. The serious error occurred when officers confused Greenwich Mean Time with British Summertime as they tried to track who was uploading and sharing indecent images on public Wi-Fi. A report from the Investigatory Powers Commissioner, the IPC, said the mix-up put the information in the investigation out by 1 hour and led to the warrant mistakenly being carried out at the address. The report said police officers investigating the upload and sharing of indecent images of children over a public Wi-Fi service applied to obtain communication data that would assist to identify the offender. As the ability to acquire public Wi-Fi data was a relatively new service, confusion arose when trying to determine the relevant time zone. The application was submitted in Greenwich Mean Time when it should have been submitted in British Summertime, meaning the subsequent result was out by 1 hour. This led to police executing a warrant at the home of an innocent family. According to the findings, police also applied for access to data on 2 other occasions using the wrong time zone for investigations into online child abuse and grooming. That led to the arrest of an innocent man in one case and another person's electronic devices being seized. A phone company provided data about the wrong internet username to police investigating sexual offences involving online grooming, which led to the arrest of an innocent person. The IPC said it does not disclose which police forces made the errors. Surprise, surprise. In an attempt to protect the innocent people involved and in case tribunal proceedings are ongoing. The report also criticised MI5 for storing people's data that should have been destroyed and failing to tell the watchdog about the breach for at least a year. It was a matter of serious concern, the report said, but added, in general, we concluded that MI5's use of investigatory powers were compliant with the statutory provisions. Under investigatory power laws, Security and Intelligence Services, GCHQ, MI5, MI6, can carry out bulk collection of large volumes of communications data and intercept emails and phone calls. The government describes the measure as essential in the fight against terrorism and cover-ups. In 2018, applications were submitted to access 808,000 items of communications data. Most were sought by police forces, while MI5 applied for 82,060 and GCHQ asked for 24,047, as well as other public bodies like the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prison Service. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said authorities had worked vigorously to address the errors raised in the report, but overall there were extremely high levels of operational competence and respect for the law by security, intelligence and law enforcement agencies. Of course, that's what he would say. He's not on the receiving end of them. I reported on the 3rd of March how Northumbria police will be tripling the amount of Taser-trained police on the streets. Well, now we have news about Gloucestershire police doing the same. However, don't panic too much, as rather than tripling the amount of Taser-trained police, they're simply just buying another 30 tasers. due to the fact they've allegedly been given the least amount of funding of all police forces. Home Secretary Priti Patel said, "Our brave police officers put themselves in harm's way to protect us, and Taser is a vital option in dangerous situations. This funding forms part of our commitment to ensure forces have the powers, resources and tools they need to keep themselves and the public safe." This week I also launched our consultation on the police covenant, which will enshrine their rights in law, recognising their service and sacrifice. That's something we're going to talk about in a future video. It was revealed in January that police officers in Gloucestershire are being assaulted at a rate of almost 3 every single week. Some 138 police constables were assaulted between the start of June 2018, the end of May 2019, an average of 2.7 every week. See figures from the Home Office. And to combat this, Gloucester Constabulary states that they would be training more officers in Taser use. John Apter, National Chair of the Police Federation of England and Wales, said, "Taser is an essential piece of equipment which has saved many police officers from serious injury or worse. I have campaigned to ring-fence funding for more colleagues to have access to Tasers, and it's refreshing that the Home Secretary has listened and acted. Policing is dangerous and unpredictable. My colleagues need all the support they can get, and I hope this extra funding will make a difference." However, maybe if Gloucestershire Police spent less on electric vehicles, they would have more money for so-called essential equipment, as Gloucestershire Police are said to have the most electric cars of all the forces, after purchasing another 75 just in February. And the government is under scrutiny once again after deeming that the release of rape gang reports is not in the public interest, bringing about claims of covering up decades of rape and grooming gang activity. The Independent newspaper reported on Friday, in response to a Freedom of Information request asking for the research carried out and any reports drawn up as a result, the Home Office confirmed it held the information but would not release it. In a letter to the Independent, officials said they had applied a public interest test, but the information was exempt from the Act because it concerned the development of government policy. One of the main purposes of the exemption is to protect the safe space necessary for ministers and officials to consider policy options in private without risk of premature disclosure. Disclosure would risk preempting decisions still to be made by ministers. In addition, the information could be misleading if made public and used out of context. Of course, because you only want it in your context. The letter added, "We recognise that this topic in general and any insight and learning are matters of strong public interest, although it does not necessarily follow that it is in the public interest to disclose any specific information relating to it." The claim that information pertaining to the investigations are not in the public interest fly in the face of increasing exasperation from the British public over an issue that was at first dismissed as a far-right conspiracy theory. Speaking in July 2018, then Home Secretary Sajid Javid MP said, "I will not let cultural or political sensitivities get in the way of understanding the problem and doing something about it." Now it looks like those sensitivities are being used as a reason to keep further information from the public, with the letter to the Independent containing euphemistic phrases such as "the information could be misleading" and used out of context. The British government is still promising action, with a spokesman telling the Independent that child sexual abuse is a sickening crime and predators who abuse children will face the full force of the law. We're pursuing work on a number of fronts to understand the characteristics of group-based offending and the context in which it occurs. This includes ongoing work commissioned by the previous Home Secretary and will inform future government policies on child sexual abuse. New sentencing laws will also ensure the most serious violent and sexual offenders spend time in prison that matches the severity of their crimes, protecting victims and giving the public confidence in the criminal justice system. In other words, we'll keep feeding you the word salad about dealing harshly with offenders in the hope that you fail to realise we're actually not doing fuck all about it. A big thank you to the first Patreon supporters, Motty Lad, Holly, Adi and Dave, whose support is helping me to continue providing you this daily content, especially as almost every single report contains content that's deemed unsuitable for most advertisers. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.
Good night, all.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.